morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you're doing, and welcome to a TMM special for Anfield Index. It is October. There isn't a million miles away till the January window, but not too long at the same time. Essentially, if Liverpool are going to sign anyone, you know that plans will already be well afoot to make those deals. And there's a couple of players we're going to focus on. Some are prime in the spotlight. One we may be looking more towards the summer. And of course, with a massive game coming up on Saturday, we will do a little bit on that for you. I am, as ever, joined by Barts to walk me through all these. And without giving too much away, I ask you this quite a bit on these shows. The players that we're going to look at, do they excite you?
Yeah. One of them's probably one of the most exciting players in the Premier League at the moment in terms of form, and the other is he's still exciting, but could be a smart buy, you know. So yeah, both attacking players excite people, right? You know, so and they're both attacking players, so yeah, they're exciting.
We should be interested for some, because probably like us, some are thinking January, surely we need defenders, surely we need progressive defenders. And that's true, but we've already talked about those before. We gave you those names in the last show. Now, all we can do is really give you the latest review on the names. And there is only one place to start, Barts. I mean, this one. Antoine Semenyo, who is running hot at the moment. 6 goals, 2 assists in the Premier League. But this article was out the other day, wasn't it, from Mark Douglas, as it says there.
Yeah.
In the news, Liverpool consider a January move for Antoine Semenyo as pressure grows on out-of-form Mo Salah. Now, there's a couple of things with this, Bart, that we know Semenyo can play both sides. It's definitely not the first time we've been linked with him. And the reason we're saying that, we profiled him in the summer or before the summer, didn't we, as well? Because New Liverpool...
Yeah, we did.
But didn't decide, for whatever reason, to pull the trigger last summer. When Luis Diaz went, you know, talks intensified, it seemed, but for whatever reason, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards didn't make the move. But now, he's looking at this, Barts, and we'll talk about the financials and stuff as ever as we do afterwards, but an Antoine Semenyo in January, what are your stats telling you as we do the normal run-through?
Do the normal run-through. I think it's important to say, and when we looked at him in the summer, the point that I'll come back to is, was it summer? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Summer. We said that last season, it was just some things about output.
Yeah.
Like, he did a lot of stuff that was really impressive, carrying it between the boxes. But it was like, when he's actually in the box, what did he produce? When you looked at it, he underperformed that, right? That's fundamentally, I think, one of the conclusions we made. And you just have to look at the game against us. He terrified our midfield last season away, but actually, what did he produce? He had a wide shot and he hit the button. It wasn't anything of any note, right? So, and people can have a go at me for whatever, but that's a real simple way of looking at it. But I think that's where it is. So this season, the important thing is, has he made that step from being something about him to, are you producing? Because if you're producing, that's when Liverpool come in and say, go on then, we'll give you a platform to go and do that regularly every Saturday. So if you look at where he is in the usuals, and this is for the last 365 days, it'll be a bit of back end of last season and a bit of the front of this season, all right? Yeah. He thinks that are impressive for me is defensively, right? It's really starting to show up that he's working hard off the ball as well, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not going to go down the route of having to go a club legend, I'm really not, right? But the role in which we seem to now need our front players, the wide players to do, is potentially not best suiting to Mo at his age, right? So you potentially need, if your front screen is not really going to do the off-ball work that we used to have, and that's just a fact, we profiled that, and we said both our current buys and our 9 didn't do as much as our old 9s did off the ball, right? Yeah. So you need to do that somewhere, right? So if Cody is famed for doing his off-the-ball work, which we could look at another day, but I'm just saying he is famed for this off-ball work, then you might need to plug in what's happening on the other side or give options for Cody. So Semenyo, for me, he's got blocks, clearances and aerials. right in the 90th and 80th percentile for a forward. Well, that's really high for a forward.
Yeah.
That's really good, right? And I know some of that is like Bournemouth play, and they're a bit more. They all have to work hard now, right? But that shows you over that year, as I said, that 365 days, that things have changed and things have improved, right? Between the boxes, or carries it well, 63rd, still takes players on. In the box, 78th percentile for non-penalty goals. His XG's down a little bit from where it was last season. Shooting still at 80th percentile. And if you compare him to Cody, he is better than him defensively, I would say, if you're taking players on. Cody still has a lot of output, which is, people have a go at Cody, but you can't really argue with his output. He scored last night. He scored at the weekend. He might not do. He might do lots of things that we could all criticise him for. But fundamentally, he is kind of doing, as an old school manager would say, what he's in the side for, right? If you compare, if I could just find Mo Salah along here. So if you compare Semenyo to Mo Salah, it's almost a yin and yang, right? Mo is still better than him in the last year because he's got back in the last season to look about. But Semenyo is better than him in terms of aerials and the off-ball stuff that might be important, right? If we look at Mark R, which is a classic site for looking at some of the stats that aren't available on F-Brief and Opta, he's currently threat-wise 0.06 for both pass and cross. Penalty box carries is 0.89, which is just less than one a game. Now, I did some quick maths for you earlier on while I was recovering, and a lot of these are actually down on where he was last year. So the XG change down by 0.04. His progressive passes are down by 0.1. His progressive carries are down by 0.64, and his penalty box carries are down by 0.82. So now you might think, well, hang on a minute, why are we bigging this player up then? But I go back to what I said right at the beginning. Last season, he was doing amazing stuff here, but when he got in the box, he wasn't doing it. And that's the change this year. Yeah. So if you look at the year, he finished with 11 goals and 5 assists from an expected goals of 14.5 and an expected assists of 6.61, right? Yeah. So he outperformed both of those metrics by a considerable amount, to be fair as well, right? This season, as you said right at the top, he's on 6 goals, 3 assists, and that is from a 4.5 XG, so he's overperforming, and from a 0.44 XA. So he's over, you could say he's running a little bit hot, but most strikers, when they make that step, will always run a little bit hot. That's a good thing to buy, yeah? Isak, from people have criticisms of Isak, whatever, but he's always a above par striker finisher, right? He generally, he's on a bad patch with us at the moment, but generally, we look at his career, he always finishes slightly above where he should do.
Yeah.
Right? So, but in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is Semenyo, for me, seems to have made that transition from doing good stuff but no end product to still doing the bits we want you to do, but now giving us the end product and giving us an end product, a striker that is over par. So, yeah, I think that's me kind of saying this could be a really good move for us. He could be exciting. Plays both sides if you watch the video on him. Yeah. Comfortable with both. I've seen a variety of finishes as well, like a side foot from left to right foot, crosses, long shots, following things in. So, yeah, I think there's a really good player in there. I spoke to a contact of mine in that who's done some coaching with him, and he says the world could be his oyster. He's right on the cusp of exploding on the world scene. So, in his opinion, so yeah, I think this could be a really exciting deal for the right price. Obviously, as we always say.
And then thinking back to last summer, because there was positives. It's important we mention these. Just I can't think of another way of putting it. The physical gifts Semenyo has, as we said, absolutely rapid, strong, good in the air. And it's never fair to do a direct comparison like this. But as we kind of alluded to, from a physical profile, maybe the closest you could put to Sadio Mane in the Premier League, or even in world football, from the physical profile out there. I'm not saying he is Sadio Mane, so that would come into the mix. Is there an element with he's got those physical gifts on what that could translate to on the left-hand side? He's got the relationship with Kirkes. He obviously played with Kirkes, didn't he, quite often down the left as well for Bournemouth that way. And the fact he is running hot, but maybe, and we talk about that, is he starting to go supernova, finishes on 2 feet. There is a lot to like, isn't there, in terms of why Liverpool, even if it's not just for January, they will be having a good look at him.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right about the connections piece is really important for me because we've already seen this season where, I hate the word churn, but it's relevant, right? If you change too many parts of the side at once and you break too many connections, it doesn't just pop. So sometimes if you buy in a connection, that will help you get over a bit more of a hump. So this is where a January move might be quite smart because it might cost you a bit. But if you suddenly get your left side working better than it is now, and with the left side midfielder potentially, that could then mean on points-wise, we kick on in the new year or whatever else you want to put it. So, I think there's a lot to be said for that. He is going to be going to AFCON. So, I'd imagine, is he going to?
This is what, I thought he was, to be honest, until we started the show. But news for me and probably news for everyone else, Ghana didn't qualify, so he is not going to AFCON.
But, okay, so this year, but generally, it's one of those things you have to consider. Yeah, AFCON is always going to be around this year, so, that's something to look forward to. But no, I could, there's a lot of smart reasons why you could go for him. It might cost you a bit more. I don't know whether there's a release clause. I can't remember whether we discussed that in the summer or not, but I'm sure Hughes can roll up that old book and contact list as well.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's probably Richard Hughes who maybe lined up the release clause or will have a good idea from his contacts. But did a bit of digging on this to try and get some information. That info is through Anfield Index sources that there is a release clause. I think it's no secret it's out there. However, the release clause doesn't come into play until the summer. So it's summer 2026 when the release clause comes in. And suggestions are it's about 60 million quid around that mark. Hence, while there's talk, and no one ever knows for definite, but in January, they're going to want a premium, aren't they, Bournemouth? Because, let's be honest, Bournemouth are third in the league. They'll be looking at, what they can do, and, where they can get to, and Semenyo is front and centre of that. Is this just a hard price point that we talk about now, Barts? Because the release clause for the summer, it's January, so clubs want a premium. Bournemouth are well run. They've got targets themselves. Also, just everything else we've done and Liverpool have spent in the summer. So clubs will look at that and thought, don't start trying to shortchange us in that regard as much as we sold well. I get it, but we spent, starting down 125 million in the market. All those just they might make a price point too rich for the blood, do you reckon?
Could do. I mean, if you you could potentially lose him in the summer for 65 or whatever it was, then you're probably going to want to try and get 80 or something around that, I'd imagine, as a premium. Plus the fact they've got to go and get a player, which is more expensive in January anyway. So it's a knock-on effect. At one point, the deal might be X, but the reason it's X is because in January, the next club down has got to go and get the same player, and then the club below that. It's not like the summer where you can kind of wait things out and be like, well, we're going to buy him, and you could either take this or not. January is really condensed. So, I think maybe. And equally, the other factors to take into account is I think they're going to have to get a centre-half in January. If that price gets moved beyond the amount they've already allocated for Gay, then that eats into any other kitty you've got lying around that you could go and get a Semenyo, right? So this isn't the only moving part, and I know the club are used to working with multiple moving parts, but I think I would be surprised if we didn't have a restricted amount for January. And within that envelope is if they want 2 players, then the first one's got to get done, which is the centre half, and then that releases what you've got left. That's kind of how I would potentially think it would be going to go.
Yeah, that potential knock-on effect. I think everyone will see it that way in terms of priority and what we said. Everyone wants a defender. Everyone wants a progressive defender. More like to be a centre-back than a full-back. Obviously, people have their thoughts on the right-back scenario, which is it almost in terms of because of what the price point would be and because of what the needs are right now, Semenyo wouldn't dismiss it in the summer at all, but just struggling to see it in January.
Probably, but I mean, let's just say we're quoting 80 million, right? If you put that into context at the moment, we need a centre half in January, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We potentially might want a right back.
Yeah.
So that's best part of 60, 70 million. That's best part of that amount of money, right? And if we're serious about winning the league this year, which isn't out of the grasp, I know there's been a lot of negativity and I get that, but we're only a little bit off the top. You can make that back, right? You are going to need to stop leaking goals and you're going to need reinforcements in those areas. I'm not dismissing any players that are there, but, Frimpong's just got his second hamstring in the season after not being injured ever. So, there's things to consider, right? And we've already lost our fourth choice centre half. So I would say there were more priority areas than a left winger. But we've done some crazy things this summer. We really have. So it wouldn't surprise me. I just think I think you're right. It's lower down the priorities for me if it's centre half and a right back first. If we're going to do more than one signing, and then we'd look at maybe a forward line.
He's a good player. He's got a lot of physical attributes people we like. As Bart said, if you look at the actual output, although, as you also mentioned, Barts, there's always going to be question marks against the guy with a non-penalty goal below 0.3 as well, XG below 0.3. So, but January, there's a lot of other things to consider. We'll see if anything develops on that one. In terms of wingers or attackers, we kind of alluded to this one before, people, but doing a bit of digging as we do at Anfield Index around obviously Semenyo and other targets, there's another name that seems to be focused on Liverpool, and this could be even more difficult in this regard. But no player in the Premier League this season has made more sprints per 90, 33 per 90, than this player, Yankuba Minteh. That is a hell of a lot of sprints. Brighton, left-footed, plays on the right side, sounding a bit familiar. And please, this is not one eminent part of being derogatory about the Egyptian king, because he's a player that we both adore. But you do seem to be getting the feeling, even just as we sort of look at this name a little bit in comparison, wingers seem to be being talked about a lot. It does leave a few questions, doesn't it, around a number of players.
Yeah, 100%. I think this player is 21, is he? Yeah. 21. Ghana, Gambia. As you say, plays on the. If you watch him on the footage, he's incredibly left-footed, but plays on the right. He's very quick. Holds his line quite well, so can make a run in behind really effectively. Happy to carry, as you can see here. Some of his carries are in the 84th percentile. Take on to 91st. He carried into the penalty box, as you can see, with his 94th touches in the penalty box. You can't carry different parts. The other thing that is people will, people like familiarity, right? He does the whole cut back onto his left and cross it in with his left from the right wing, which, as we know, has become a fulcrum of our attacking output over the years. When I say left-footed, he is incredibly left-footed. I think I watched 2-3 reels of footage of him, including the game, and I don't think I've seen him use his right for anything other than standing on, to be honest with you. And that's not criticism. Some of the best players are. But, he shoots with power on target. Doesn't seem to have a lot of curler in his locker, but these are all things that we did at 21. Defensively, this is what actually impressed me. But again, context is key here. As with Semenyo, Brighton are also a very heavy off-ball team. So if you play for Brighton, you've got to work. That's not saying that players don't work at other teams, but I'm just saying this is one of the principles of their play, is that they have tasks to do, and that comes through. So he tackles, he does the whole lot, all in. His clearances are at 93rd, and his tackles are at 97, and the rest of it are all in nearly the 80s. So that's a really good defensive profile for for a winger. As I've already said, he carries it a lot and he receives progressive passes. So passing isn't really his thing in terms of his completion rate isn't good, which means he's on the end of things. He's not the guy to instigate. Which, if you think about our play this season, there has been some analysis that we've missed a rapid out ball, if you get what I mean. Someone who can just release from a set play. We defended a set play and then he just carries it the whole length of the pitch and finishes it, right? So that could be a reason why we're looking at it. In the box, though, 0.26 non-penalty goals. He's not going to give you a massive highlight reel. Shot creating actions, again, 30th percentile. But in terms of the assists, he's more in the 71st percentile. So that gives you a little bit of a notion that he might want to progress that ball or be on the end of a move, but he is then looking to maybe assist it more. It's just the accuracy of that assist needs to be better. Compared him to the Egyptian King, I think it's fair to say they're different players. Defensively, they're different. Even if another guy we've looked at is Elise. That's unfair comparison because the guy's lighting up the league at the moment. I'm just trying to find Cody for you. So Cody is similar-esque there. So you could say that the two are quite similar in terms of their build-up. Again, looking, what does his threat look like for Brighton? More than Semenyo in terms of pass and cross, about the same for a pass. Interestingly, and this backs up what his ability is, which is progressive carries into the penalty box. So he makes nearly 3 a game.
Wow.
So he carries the ball progressively into the box nearly 3 times a game. And that's actually quite something when you think about it. Right? And he still receives nearly 5 progressive passes as well. So, I think there's a lot to like about this kid. Really, really interesting. Like young as well, like a young, real young. Could be probably further down the rankings in terms of Semenyo, obviously, but might be something to consider in terms of do you buy now from Brighton or buy in a year when he's Minteh kind of level, So, an interesting guy. I can't imagine it'd be cheaper or what, Brighton or not.
This is a tough one because you're dealing with Barber and Bloom and Brighton straight away. So you're dealing with masters in the business, so negotiation is going to be hard to meet their price to even start with. Contract till 2029. Quite in a weird way when we did some digging on this, without being rude, quite a sort of small-time agency. Is definitely not with one of the elite ones, if you know what I mean, in that regard as well. Which, sometimes makes it easier for relations. In terms of relations as well, the other thing to note was at Feyenoord, wasn't he, with Arne Slot? So has played that year on loan there. So Arne Slot will be well versed and not suggesting things, but I think we full well know that if Arne Slot did want Yankuba Minteh a quick FaceTime or anything, could it be easily sorted, or they'd be speaking that way, in that regard. But Rapid, like Semenyo, I suppose it'd be interesting when you talk about it this way. Semenyo or Minteh, if we were talking in the summer, because it just feels unlikely for Semenyo in January, how would you contrast them in that regard? Because they're both quick, they're both wingers, but they are different profiles at the same time.
Yeah, I think I could see one coming with the current stock. So Minteh I could see coming in easily and fitting into the current stock, should we say. But if that current stock is changed, then I could see Semenyo being more important to bring in, if that makes sense. If we lose one of the starting 1 or 2, then I don't think Minteh's your man to bring in to replace that starting player, if that makes sense. Like, I think, let's say Cody goes to Bayern. Let's just say that maybe something like that happens, then you could see a Semenyo coming in. That seems like a sensible way forward. Whereas if Cody or Mo leave, I'm not sure Minteh's your man you bring in to replace one of those two. That's probably where I'm at.
Yeah. Is it almost a bit like we talked about the summer? Because I think people always think of like the names and who they want. we looked at profiles within the summer, and Malik Fofana, for instance, was one that we looked at, didn't we? Pace, someone like a carrier.
Yeah.
And he might well still be on the radar, not that we've got anything new on that at all. It's just important to say. But that was a different profile from some of the other wingers that we were, of course, linked to and looked at that way. So if it was, you say, the age comes into it, doesn't it? Semenyo's 27 or about to be 27 at PK, buying him for the now. If you were to buy Minteh, it would probably be as a project forward, like we bought Leone as a project defender. That's probably how the club will be looking at it, fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, arguably, so Ekitike, right, is a younger forward. He's not backup because he's rotation, but you have bought him with a bit more of the future looking than you had Isak, right? So yeah, I could see how this kind of 21 could fit in as a project. He could. That's why I said if you come into the current stock for a season or so, learn a bit about our system so that the integration is easier for him, and then become a first-team player in a year's time, potentially for us.
So both could be in the mix, but I have to be honest, people, everything for January, it just doesn't feel likely at all. It just feels a summer move for both. But those are the headlines. A lot of this summer surprised us anyway. Nothing's really surprising you too much with Liverpool, so you just never know.